Hello, hello. I'm
This
back.
I'm back, says Arnie. All right, this
Jack
audio,
Nicholson, The Shining.
my my earbuds are completely messed up right now. So
You know, another fun thing too, folks, when you're getting ready for a meeting or a stream, make sure Spotify is not enabled in the background because if you bump your Pixel Buds, suddenly the music starts pouring in at
I did
maximum
that before.
volume.
I did that before. I've done that before. Um,
Yeah, I'm
all right.
deaf
Well,
now.
it's just really bad quality. I don't know why. Apparently it's connected. It's all working. I can hear you. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, that's when I tried to use the microphone on these things, the sound quality went to garbage.
I guess I
Anyway,
let's do the instructions and I'll have a play around with it and see if I can work it.
yeah, let's do that. All right. Do's and don'ts. I haven't done this in a while. Be nice, be respectful, be constructive. This isn't Reddit. Don't post anything that's adult content, rude, offensive, or otherwise against basic common sense. Don't advertise or promote your product. This is not a marketing channel, and we all know that you need a job. Don't spam your question over and over again. Every time you ask the question, it goes to the bottom of the list. If you ask it a second time, we take it off the top of the list and put it right back on the bottom. Harassment is not tolerated in the event any kind of, misogyny or homophobia or racism. You're going to end up getting banned, and we do share ban lists with a lot of other places, so your logins all over the Flutter community might suddenly stop working. Last of all, have a good time.
Indeed, have a great time. And guess what? I got my Pixel Buds working. Yay. Let's do some introductions. So, my name's Simon Lightfoot, Flutter Community Lead, CTO at Dev Angels London, and I don't work for Google. There you go. And Scott, introduce yourself.
My name is Scott Stahl. I also do not work for Google. I am a Flutter community lead, organizer, GDG Cleveland. I do a bunch of other stuff that you probably don't care about. And I write apps for a number of different people in a number of different directions.
And we have a couple of guests with us. Let's do the usual. Randall, welcome to the stage.
Oh, hey, I didn't know I was popping in, but okay, I can be here. Hi, I'm Randall Schwartz. I am a Dart and Flutter Google developer expert, have been since the beginning of that program 5 years ago. And I also, like Scott, I write, like Scott and Simon, actually everybody here, I write Flutter applications. It's my primary day job. But I also spend a lot of time answering questions on places like Discord and Reddit and Stack Overflow and places like that. You probably have seen my name all over those. But for this show, I am the question magician, which means I am behind the scenes. Even if I'm not on screen, I'll be behind the scenes watching for you to put Q in front of your question, and then I will flag it so that we will eventually take a look at those questions and answer those. So that's how you get into the queue, is with a Q.
We need to have that sound, but like every week.
Yeah, where's my soundboard? I've got a soundboard here somewhere. I should have that queued.
Oh, look. And there's a Danielle as well. Welcome, Danielle.
We also have a Danielle. Hi, everybody. Yeah, I'm the Flutter tech lead for a startup company called Ardly, and you'll notice that name is also not Google. So that's who I do it, and I lead a small team there, and that's really good. But especially today, coming with what's coming up, I'm very proud to also be one of the Flutteristas organizers, and we have something really big coming up Saturday, and so I'd like to bring on screen with me my good friend Valeria, who's going to tell you a little bit about it.
Hello, everyone. I am coming to you from the Fall Festival of Southeastern Illinois, so you will hear all the kiddos be very loud, so I'm not going to be on with my mic on for too long. But hello, everyone. My name is Valeria Duran Ruiz. I am the tech leader and founder at Tech Violet. Also, the co-organizer for Flutter Chicago. If you're ever in the Chicago area, come join us. We'll be joining in with all the Flutter enthusiasts of the area. And also, I am one of the organizers for the Flutteristas Conference 2023. So this is so exciting. We have so many people working so hard for this conference. It's going to be amazing. We have world-class speakers. We are going to have really engaging activities. We have it coming up on November 11th, this Saturday. It will
This
be
Saturday.
Oh, sorry, did you say something?
No, I was saying this Saturday. It comes quick. It's come quick. Like,
Yes, this Saturday. Everyone in this call right now has been so helpful through this entire process. We're going to be talking about it a little bit more. It is coming up on November 11th, this Saturday, from 3 a.m. to 3 p.m. Pacific. So it's a 12-hour window where everybody can come in and out and come join us. For more information, you can visit flutteristas.org, as we have it right there. And also, if you can join us on our meetup page, that would be great, because on the meetup, if you say that you will attend, we can be in closer contact with you, and you will get the latest updates on the conference.
so we'll also the streams will be here on YouTube. So if you subscribe to the channel, you'll get a notification as well for the conference when it comes out live on Saturday as well.
But we would love for you to sign up on the meetup, just so we've got the
Of course.
the
Yeah,
reviews
no,
and stuff like that. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, it's good
And,
to know
yeah.
like how many people want to come along to these things and like understand the viewership and everything else that goes along with it. It's really helpful for the next conference and the next one, hopefully. So.
Yes, thank you, Train. Thank you very much. We're relieved too. It's one of the things that we do that I think is kind of special, is we try to make sure that we encompass the entire world. It's not like F3 in Prague, which is only there, or even Flutter Vikings was still around that time, but for multiple days. So we're trying to actually have a long stream that's going to be on there. It's going to be amazing.
The Flutteristas conference is the only one I know of that tries to keep it running continuous so everyone can get it during the day wherever they are.
Exactly. Yeah.
Is it me, Scott? Your mic seems a bit hot at the moment, a bit loud. Is that just me?
Okay, let me bring it down a little bit.
Okay. So we've got Valeria there with the sounds of kids everywhere, and you complain about Scott's mic.
That's fine.
I'm a little bit confused about one thing, though, Valeria. Real quick question. You said you're in Southeast Illinois?
So kind of, not Southeast really. We're very close to Chicago, but that's what I think the Fall Festival is.
Yeah, I was going to say Chicago's all the way northwest. Well, kind of.
Northeastern Illinois, I think.
Okay.
But there are all the kiddos, like so many kids. Oh my God. So much fun.
I've got so many lawnmowers out here, so if I mute, you know why.
And I don't have the link for it. Maybe Valeria does that we can share, but we also have like a little bit of a coding contest going on. Do you have that link, Valeria? All right. If you put it in the private chat, Simon can put it up. She is trying to be kind and not bombard us with the extraneous noise.
I was going to say, do you know something else we haven't mentioned? How long it is going to go on for the conference?
Yeah, it's 12 hours. 12 hours. Yeah. And by the way, I while she's looking up the link, I do want to bring up the point that while we're the ones that are on stage, we're the ones that are getting to shine in the spotlight. I want to point out that we're getting great help from the community. People like Simon and Scott and Majid, are all we couldn't do it without you guys. So thank you so much. And it's such a pleasure to work with people like you that are willing to let us have our moment, but help make sure that it's top notch, professionally produced, things like that. So thank you very much.
Yeah. Yes. Don't forget the queuing from the questions. So
I can I'll share the link. I can share the link in chat.
Oh wait, I have.
Hold on, except as a new tab. I don't know what's this as a new tab. I don't remember that from before. How do I fix that?
So the sign for those that want it, I'll pop this in the live chat. This is the coding contest sign up link. You can see that. There's no point bringing up the screen; it's too big. But you'll see it in the chat. You can click on it from the chat.
Yeah.
Tell us more about this. So this is what is this competition about?
So it is Flutteristas Generate, It is a code challenge where you can create just something really, really beautiful, a background, some piece of art or something like that using Flutter. We also have a few tidbits here and there to inspire folks. So back in Flutter Interacts in 2019, you can find those videos on YouTube. Just look up Flutter Interact. There is this artist. His name
Robert
is
Felker.
Yes, thank you. Yes, Robert Felker. He had this presentation at Flutter Interact that just blew my mind, and to this day I remember it. It was absolutely beautiful what he creates, and if you go to that video too, look it up, Robert Felker on YouTube. It's just so beautiful, and if you go to the messages, there's so many folks who are like, "Oh my gosh, I am a Flutter developer, and I had no idea I could do this."
And I can't remember what the package is or whatever he put out, but he made it so easy for everybody else. I've
Your
already
volume
turned
really-
down over 20%.
I think it's gone back up. It still feels like it's gone. It's really hot. Maybe move the mic away.
Hasn't gone up. Testing 1, 2. Any better?
Move the mic further away a little bit, and then you'll probably be fine.
Yeah, move the Death Star.
That's the.
Okay,
That's better.
another thing. No, I'm just kidding.
Sorry, go on.
And just to about the code challenge too, there's also Sarah Fulmer, who's also a Flutteristas member, and she created so in the 2021 conference, she made a talk about how you can create art and stuff like that. So please also look up Sarah Fulmer's Flutteristas conference talk. And then you will find also more inspiration on how you can join our challenge and create something beautiful with Flutter.
You know, now the kids can do that instead of finger painting. It's easier to clean.
You know, I actually was talking to the school and stuff to see if I could run that. They just don't have a computer room with computers for the kids because it's for little kids. So yeah, we're there, but we'll see because that would be so fun to teach them some Flutter. So
What's
they
that
could-
one? Mark Thompson made one, Simon, like 4 years ago, where it had black on top of a stack, and when you dragged your finger on it, it revealed the rainbow underneath, so you could draw on it.
Does it? I'm not.
Blank.
No,
Oh my
I'm
God, there's
not
something
remembering
about
that.
computers that Simon can't remember.
I only remember the interesting stuff. Anyway,
Oh no, Mark, you didn't mean that.
You know, when I was a kid in the 90s, we had that. There was this brand that made all these things that it was like a black canvas, and then you would drag along, and it would be super, super colorful. So having that as an app just sounds really, really fun.
so there was actually so there was like some like finger paint. There's kind of a few different sort of starter Flutter apps that are like finger painting and things like that, you know. But you did just remind me there was actually something we did do very early on. Do you remember like the scratch card that we did?
That's kind
Remember-
of what I was talking about. I think
Was
that
that what
was
you're
the
talking about?
precursor to the scratch card.
So yeah, there was like, how do you make it so that you could like reveal widgets underneath by like scratching out like a surface on your phone with your finger? And that was kind of an interesting little
that
thing.
was it.
Is that on GitHub? That sounds
It is. It is. Hang on. I literally, here's the link. I just found it on my gists. 25
Simon's amazing at doing that kind of stuff.
years ago. Blimey. Blimey. Where does time go? Yeah. So that was apparently someone put it into a library called Scratcher. There you go.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Shall I share on the screen? Let's just share this. Where's the button?
Yeah, Randall's like before he's on the show. It's before I knew about Flutter even 5 years. I'm only
I don't know if
4 and 11 months.
I don't think, yeah. So it's like obviously this is the guy just like wrap, you know, put your finger over it and revealing whatever's underneath, like a scratch card.
That's pretty cool. Is that just some of the stack and then you know tracking the gestures to do the erasing of the the top widget, or?
Do you know what? Here's how we find out. Hang on, share. I honestly, I haven't looked at this for I don't know how long, and this is like non-null save. It's 5 years old, right? But listen, I'm sure it wouldn't take much to bring it up to scratch.
Yeah.
So there's
at least one of us has done an update on non-null safe stuff.
Scratch card. Okay, so we have a widget that surrounds like whatever content. And here's the widget here, and then this scratch data, distance between angle between pan down. So this essentially takes the user input, records the points that user has touched on the screen and into scratch data. And when they stop touching, this works out like how much of the area of the screen has been revealed to work out if you've actually like completely revealed what's underneath or by a certain percentage amount, right? There's suggested text to do the panning. Scratch card layout on top of what we're trying to reveal. And this contains a single child render object widget, which I'm guessing, listens to the data. When the data changes, it repaints. Okay, so here's what we're doing. So this does save layer, save what was underneath, paints the child, and then it paints blend mode clear on top to essentially rub out what was painted of this child, right? And then it does restore, which means you're now getting what the entire layer composed together would be. So that's the magical piece.
Yeah. You can see how close Valeria and I got to our computers to actually look at the code just now.
Sorry, was that doing? There you go. Is that better?
Okay, yeah, it's fine. But I'm just saying, you see how fast we got up there to look.
Yeah. So I mean, like it's. I mean, this is what the whole thing boils down to, is just like this save layer, right? The rest of it is all just like sort of making that work. So yeah.
That is so cool. It makes me think for the challenge. One thing to note is that for the challenge, the code is meant to run on Dartpad. So Dartpad does work with a few packages, but you won't be able to use a whole bunch of packages. There won't be like a GitHub repo with an entire Flutter application. It will just be something to run on Dartpad. But that should, make it a little bit simpler maybe for folks. Maybe yes, maybe not. We will see.
We're hoping it makes it a lot simpler on those of us that have to judge it.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Don't use the word should, because as soon as you do.
Well, I tell you what, the biggest mistake that we made the very first time when we did the first global hackathon. When was that? 2019? I don't know.
Which problem?
Well, we had like 300 entries we had to judge between like 5 people, and it was like this is madness. So the next time around, I think it was 2020, we decided to do like a crowdsourced voting. So the idea was everyone would vote on each other's stuff, and that way it was like that would for each round that people would go through, it was like 5 different like rounds of voting. It would whittle it down to the very end, and then we would then as a committee, like all the organizers choose our ones that we prefer, and that would get the final 3 sort of top 3 and the top 20.
Another
but yeah, that
tip
was
when you're running one
was
of
that
these.
5,000? Was that 5,000 submissions or something ridiculous in that competition?
It was insane. But another hot tip: if you're going to run one of these in the background, do not schedule your feed, especially if it's going to be more than 24 hours, because I think there was a max of 24 hours. So I'm sitting here at home, and I'm not at the desk at the time, and I get these panicked messages from Nash and Jay because the stream just dropped and went down, and Simon was out on site somewhere.
We got the recording. We think that was the first one. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, that was the first one. We figured it was, the hackathon was supposedly like 24 hours, but it was 24 hours around the world, so you had to add another 12 or something. It was crazy because it was going on for like 36 hours, and then 24 hours into it, the feed just died.
Talking about which, Hey, look, the website's still running. Flutter here. Look. There you go. So if anyone wants that, there's the winner.
Oh man.
And you can go watch the video, access the GitHub, read about it. Who
Boy,
worked
it's
on
been a
it.
long time since that, huh?
And then we got the second, third place in the top 20. I mean, some of them are like really cool, right? So I can skip it. So this is like, yeah, I guess this is like a sort of asteroids clone.
Mhm.
Okay. Anyway,
Better than a Tinder clone.
there's just so many of these going around. Anyway, yeah. So this was all the website was done in Flutter at the time. So this is all actually Flutter. With the HTML renderer back in 2019. So you can go watch the streams. There's a stream for each. We broke the stream up into 2 days over a series of videos. There's a playlist as well. If people want to go watch it, yeah, go right here. So it's been a while.
It has been a
To
while.
give you
What
an idea
happened?
how much it's changed, another project that I just started on the side for myself, I'm working with a crew of people doing AI models. And if you don't have access to one and you want to play around with it, go to Stable Horde. I think it's stablehorde.net. What it is it's crowdsourced models. Like I have one running 24 hours a day. People can use it. So the thing is making Flutter apps to interact with them. What can you make a Flutter app do if you've got a 13 billion parameter AI driving it? What could you do? And if you don't have to pay for it because you're using Stable Horde, now you can start playing around.
If you have any questions about the Flutteristas conference or any of the stuff around that, please put them in the chat and we'll get to them right now or sooner rather than later.
Well, there is one other thing I do want to give as kind of an incentive for people to be there live when it's happening, is because we do have some codes that can be redeemed for Dash. So, so if you're there, in fact, actually, Big Dash or Little Dash, you can redeem them for either one. Yeah. Yep. But anyway, we're gonna have different quizzes on there. And the questions, some of the questions are going to be coming out of the talks that we had before that. So yeah, be there live, and there's a very real chance that you could win a your own Dash, or if you already have a Dash, you could get Flutter socks or a tote or whatever with it. But yeah, but I know Dash is what everybody wants. So
yeah, there's quite a few live activities you can take part in as well. So
yeah,
be sure to be there or be square.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. At least be there for when it's convenient for your time in the world. I mean, we are recording it for everybody else, but it will be available. But yeah, we'd really like you for you to be there when we're doing it.
The reason why it was spread over 12 hours is because it means that there's always a time slot which someone can make over that time period, and no matter where you are in the world, basically, that's the idea.
Yeah,
and also there are speakers spread all over, too. Who
absolutely.
are there to answer questions.
Yeah, the speakers are all going to talk during, I mean, we're not making them, wake up at 1 a.m. to try to give their talk. We're actually having them on there when it's convenient for them also. So that's part of this. All came out of when we did the first one. It's one of the ideas that someone came up with that we just absolutely loved it, and so we're excited to try it again. So.
Is that your bird in the background? I can hear.
I'm trying to figure out what that is. Yeah, is that?
It could be, but man, he's a ways away. Yeah, Dorian. Yeah, Dorian.
Yeah, it sounded like a little squeak.
Yeah. He's through several walls and a couple of closed doors right now.
He's got some lungs in him then.
Oh yeah,
Danielle, I'm trying to figure out. I'm just looking at your 3 dashes. Which one is the mother and which one's the father with the dark face and the light face?
Well, I'm not sure because as far as I know, all the dashes are female. So yeah, so I don't know, which of the modern methods they could do to both have a baby, but I'm pretty sure it's 2 moms. and a girl.
I have it on very
Could
good
be like the
authority
frog.
that's very true.
Yeah, they're all female.
Yeah.
Could be like, certain frogs. They just
Yeah.
make whatever adaptation necessary.
And-
Anyway,
And I do believe Dash is officially a Flutterista. So yeah, we've got her in there. So
Cool.
all right.
All right. Should we see what questions have come in?
Yeah, I don't see anything that's specific on that, but I'd love if Valerie wants to hang out for a little bit. She's only got about 10 minutes or so, but we'll let her come on. Maybe after everything calms down, we can have her back.
Let's see. Let's we'll just hit on the questions and then see if any more come in. All right.
alrighty. I
First
have an
question.
app bar at the root of the app in a scaffold, one per bottom tab. I'm assuming that is one scaffold per bottom tab. How can I change the app bar title depending on the current page with data being shown in the body? Well, this almost sounds like I would almost use a page view for that to begin with, but the title just sounds like basic state management. What do you
We're
think,
getting
Sasha?
feedback. We're getting feedback from someone's microphone. I think that's weird.
If you're still getting it, it's
anyway.
not me because I muted myself, but
No, it's sweet.
I hear it too.
It went away for a minute.
It's only coming from your mic, Scott. Anyway,
My mic.
there's only when you were talking just a minute ago. Doesn't matter. It's fine now. All right.
I mean,
So yeah. So I was going to say with this, like you've got two options, right? So you can have. So first of all, you can nest scaffolds, right? So you have a scaffold on the outside that hosts your bottom nav, and then for each page of content you put in your page view in the main body, that's where you have an app bar for each screen. But it does mean that if you swipe or something, the app bars move with the pages, which, depending on what you're trying to do, or maybe you instantly swap like the Apple style things, then you don't notice the problem there. Another nice thing you can actually do, another neat trick about keeping the app bar in the same place but having the different pages is wrap it in a hero. And then when you transition between screens, it looks like it stays in the same place because it animates.
Now, can you do that with an app bar in one scaffold and move it to a different scaffold?
This is about heroes only work between routes. So the way you do this is with
well, actually, son, that wasn't my question really. If you have two scaffolds on different routes, can you hero just the app bar?
Yes.
Instead of hearing the whole scaffold. Okay.
Yeah. You can just wrap. So to do that, you wrap your app bar in a hero, and then you wrap the hero in a preferred size widget. And that's because an app bar has to be a preferred size widget, and there's actually a widget called preferred size widget. Anyway, and then the size you set to size.fromHeight K toolbar height. The K toolbar height is the default height of a toolbar. Anyway, the proper way of doing this, I think this is the way that you're looking for, Boolean, is when you switch pages, you can have it's about determining a protocol between the widgets, right? Like how you want to communicate. So you work that by using context.find find parent, find ancestor widget of exact type, or find ancestor state of exact type, and that will walk up the tree to find the wrapping scaffold, and then you can call a function on that state object and say set title. Now each page can at any point set the title. That's great, but how do you know when to set the title? That's when the page becomes the active page. So now the question is, does each page just report the title it wants to display, and it puts in an array, and then your page controller, you listen to your page controller, and when it changes pages, it changes the title? There's lots of ways of doing that relationship, and it basically means what is best in terms of how your app is designed to work together. But generally, yeah, you can walk the tree to join two widgets together once they're built. Anything else to add to that? And we can show this if we'll do some live coding later. So if we make a note of that, so I can copy and paste it, I'll show you how we do that if you can stick around. All right, I guess we'll get to the next question.
Benefit of using factory constructors over just functions with return types of the class itself. Well, in general, factories are when you want to return different kinds. I don't want to say types. I want to say different kinds of the base class.
I mean, there's lots of options, but yeah, you're right. Like, there's plenty of times when you can just use a static method, and it does the same job as a factory constructor. I think, to be honest, I don't use factory constructors hardly at all. I feel like the reason why they actually had a place mainly was about the compatibility with JavaScript, and the way that JavaScript creates objects from a prototype. Like, this is kind of probably one of the ways that it kind of worked around to be compatible with JavaScript at the very beginning. But for the most part, yeah, I just don't find myself using it at all.
I mean, with what I do, we've got it's called an offer, and the backend returns different data elements in an offer depending on what type of mortgage it's going to be. If it's going to be a HELOC, or if it's going to be a cash out refi, or if it's going to be like a purchase, whatever it is, it returns different information based on that. And in my code, I wanted to be able to use them interchangeably. So I've got I've got my superclass that these guys inherit from, that is an offer type. And so I just have static methods of offer.from, HELOC. And you pass it in the backend structure, and it gives me what I want. And so so I mean, that could be otherwise, but I use it that way, and it just construction returns back what I need.
So I mean, the thing is, what is the advantage of doing that over like using just a static function, for example, that does the same thing? The answer is
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That's why I use a static function.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's offer.from whatever type it is.
The nice thing about using, I think maybe this is also a language thing, right? Because I think a lot of us were driven to use static methods because we could use them, we could refer to them as functions, whereas constructors you couldn't refer to. Back in the day, you couldn't refer to them as functions. You couldn't pass a constructor as a function to something else. You can do that now. In fact, if you do class name .new, .new is like a hidden constructor on a class that is the default unnamed constructor. If anyone doesn't know that, that's what it is. So you can actually pass a constructor by reference.
I always love it when this happens.
There's one other thing that differentiates static functions from constructors, factory constructors, and that's that a factory constructor can call super because you have super inheritance, whereas with statics you can't do that.
True. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and in all fairness, if I were actually just doing a constructing, I think I would just play a factory constructor. But in my case, I end up calling the constructor with the right values I want. So I end up calling it.
The thing that always stops me from using factory, like I might be using factory constructors more if they could be asynchronous. That's the thing that always holds me up, because when I want to do some logic to build an object, it might be I might have to go to disk to load something, or there might be some other process, and you want that to kind of be possibly contained with what you're doing. So, for example, like let's say you have a private constructor with ID and name, and to get the ID and name, you make a static method like from disk or something. You give it a file, and then it will load that file, extract those two parameters from the file, and then construct that object with those two parameters and return it. That's kind of like a sort of generalized method, but like where you need like extra parameters, you need to do some extra logic, which is where the factory constructors come in handy, because you can perform whatever logic you want to do in the function before you return the actual object that you're building. Right. But yeah, like a lot of the time I want to do that. It's because I'm trying to do something asynchronous.
And one other thing that I find as an advantage for using sometimes for using a static method over a constructor is like in my case where I'm converting from another object into this one. Well, if it doesn't match, I can always return null, and you can't do that from a constructor.
True.
So I actually have to be foo question mark, not It doesn't have to necessarily return one.
Yeah, you have to throw an error for it to
Yeah.
not construct the object. All right. Well, let's choose the next one, I guess. Oh, no, we did that one. Next one.
How do I pass values from one screen to another using the stacked state management without having to pass it as a parameter? I checked the docs and couldn't find the answers. Well, one, this is a state management thing that was brought up by filled stacks, was it not? It's MVVM basis. I know, I haven't really, I looked it up really, really fast. This is not a state management system.
Oh, this is the
framework.
No, this is the stacks.
Filled stacks.
Yeah, filled stacks, yeah. I mean, never used it before, but we could take a look.
Yeah.
So
like, usually does some pretty decent stuff.
Sorry. Route data. I mean, was this how do I pass values from one screen to another with using stacked state management without having to pass it as a parameter? I mean, what do you mean as a parameter? Because it is a parameter to the page.
Okay. We need to say goodbye to Valeria, unfortunately.
Oh, okay. Thanks for coming.
I think she's about to be overwhelmed by preschoolers.
Bye. Thanks for coming.
Bye. She's also probably about to be overwhelmed on more stuff about the conference, because I know she's got calls coming up on that too that she had to squeeze in to come here. I'm using us as an excuse to skip that. So
no, you can't blame us, right? Moving on. Yeah. So looking at their API, I could bring this up. Let's see if I can share this. I have to write back there. Yeah, I mean, like this is the stacked package I was just talking about, and like you've got this kind of adaptive page, custom page, Cupertino page, and I mean, I'm assuming they're using like this sort of page thing, nested router, navigation resolve. I don't know any of this. This is all quite interesting, but at the same time.
Speaking of routers, I have a point to bring up before we go to the next question.
Tabs router, interesting. But looking at this anyway, if we looked at, I was looking at custom page there, and you got route data, right? So is this just like it says route that matched, but you got parent route data, pending children. See, the way this works normally see, this is just a page. Just extend this. Yeah, it describes the configuration of a route. That is literally what you've just asked, right? So this is just the normal page widget from Flutter, right? And stack page is just their thing on top of that. So you can just go and extend this class and add whatever parameters you want. Then when you're inside your page, you can actually do modal route. It's actually modal route.of. This is the standard way of doing it inside Flutter, right? So you do. There's a if I can find the of. There's a static of method in here. Anyway, that gives you back the modal route. There you go. So you do this. You get back. So you just do this, right? Modal route of context. You get back to route. And then you just do route.settings, right? So every route has the settings that are passed in, and that is the page. So there's a settings getter, and this route settings is the page because that's what page implementers page. So you just cast it as your custom one. You get whatever parameter you want out of it. Hopefully that helps. I could also show that a bit later if people are interested.
Another point to bring up regarding routes, just in case anyone else ran into it, Simon, you had a little bit of a problem for a bit with GoRouter, right?
Yeah, that was interesting. So I was just trying to do what I thought was a simple thing with shell routes, and yeah, it totally didn't work anymore. What used to work was just you define your shell route, your routes inside, and then it would, whenever you like, for example, if you pushed a route, it would use where it was from the tree on how to launch it. So it would launch inside the shell route if it was within it, and if it's outside, it wouldn't. Now you have to add a navigator key to the things on the inside or the outside or something. Really bizarre. I couldn't find any docs on it either. Like not any clear documentation as to why the change took place. Anyway.
All right.
Well, who's maintaining GoRouter now?
Flutter team.
I think the team is.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, Chris jumped ship and went to go play with VR.
Can't blame him. All right.
All right. Which state management must you know as a Flutter developer? Well,
Riverpod. Riverpod.
I figured as soon as I saw that, I was going to say Riverpod.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say they're not
You
complicated.
still need to know vanilla, though. I mean, at least the basics of.
Yeah,
I think you should.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Vanilla being no package.
No, I was going to say this is what people should go look at. Roadmap.sh/Flutter. It's a guide. Here, I'll bring up on the screen. It's a guide to becoming a Flutter developer in 2023, and it takes you through all what you should learn. It's a learning
behind
path.
this one too.
And where is it? State management. Here you go. Look, Riverpod block provider is what they recommend. So, RxStar animations. But to be honest, like state management is it's given the wrong name. We all know. We say this every time. It's not state. It's not like people talk about state management as if it's architecture, right? Or vice versa. It all gets a bit mushy, right? The whole idea of state management is just to manage the rebuilding of UI based on the change of app state. That's it, right? Yeah. You can do that. You can do that with literally calling a function and telling it to do set state, right? That's state management. You could do, a stream, your future. There's a ton of different ways. Now, all of this revolves around sort of like lifting out of the widget tree and then linking these components up, right? A lot of them link up things together. So if one piece of data changes, it changes the dependent bits of data, and any UI that depends on those gets rebuilt. That's state management, right? Yep. There is actually there's actually a page now on the Flutter official Flutter site about state management. Here we are, state management. I'll pop this in the chat, and I'll also bring it up just so that people can see what I'm talking about. So there's an introduction piece, explaining, like state management and how you might do it in this thing. See here, it's some animations and things. Think declaratively, ephemeral state versus app state, what they are, how it works differently. And then
ephemeral is a really fancy word for saying inside the same page. It doesn't mean
temporary state. It means temporary state, ephemeral, temporary. Yeah. There's an example app you can actually download and install and try out and understand, and then they walk you through it. And then finally, somewhere there's a list of other provider Riverpod, some options and ways of doing all this state management, and articles around them all.
And what I would say is learn this so you get the concepts.
Yeah.
And then you're in a lot better shape to when you go to a new job and they want to use something else that you don't, isn't the one you've learned. You at least understand the concepts and you can move back and forth with it. So, I mean, it's much more important to understand what's happening and why than exactly how to do it, because there's like, Simon just mentioned a lot of ways to do it, reading off the page. You can, for most people when they're first starting out, you can get an awful lot done with set state. You can get an awful lot done with, the provider was a nice little thing to come after that with an inherited widget, because inherited widgets are fine, but they're a little bit different. I just built my first, in a long time, I just built my first value notifier. That was fun.
Wow.
Stuff like that. Yeah.
What was
I
it?
hadn't been doing it well because I'm always using other stuff, but
what was it?
My own from scratch and understanding how they work.
I was going to say we actually did some. So we did a state management course this year with GDG London. The videos are on this very channel. If you go look, you can in the live feeds. You'll find the live chats. We do live coding with doing state management stuff. So go check it out.
If you're really just starting out and you're having trouble wrapping your head around Riverpod and things like that, start out with scoped model. because it's I don't want to sound negative or anything, but scope model is a great place to start when you're working in that direction, because it's kind of like provider with training wheels on a bike, so that your kid doesn't fall over. But it's basically a very basic approach to the same thing that provider and Riverpod are doing. And it's a great stepping stone, because that's the way I learned, was scope model, then provider, then Riverpod.
I mean, scope model was the thing that came out to simplify inherited widget, and then provider came out, and then others. So this was literally the one of the OG state management
And
solutions.
when I say start with it, you'll learn scope model, you'll get the feel for it, and a week later you'll move on.
Tell you what you want to.
But it's a great start.
So I tell you something else. Some people asked me about. So I did actually talk quite a little bit about state management during my FlutterCon talk this year. The videos are up online. But I did do a repository. So in the WoW, this is actually, I think people might find this interesting. So I'll pop this link in the WoW shopping app that we did during this year's Flutter Dev Camp for State Management. One of the little example things that we built was a sliver expansion tile. I just wanted to bring this up because it's not the fact that sliver expansion tile, but this, to manage the state of which tiles are expanded or not, actually uses inherited model. And people always questioning how to use inherited model, and this is a good example of how to use inherited model to sort of manage this kind of stuff. And it's
Simon
it's
likes
really
his old
super
school
simple
approaches.
Well, look, see, that is expanded, really nice and simple. Done. But yeah, communicate, linking between widgets and having them all communicate is half the trouble. But finding them, right? So you can imagine you might have 200 widgets as parents or ancestors in your widget tree, and you don't want to go looping 200 times each time you want to go get a particular sort of globally scoped inherited widget or provided inherited widget, as it were. So the idea is that you cache them, and that's where inherited widget already does the caching. So as long as you build into inherited underneath, all the systems use inherited widget to cache essentially cache their access to the underlying system.
Well, and we don't help ourselves with even like stateful and stateless widgets. That just has to do with how stuff gets rebuilt. But I mean, I can write a stateless widget that gets rebuilt all the time, based upon stuff that happens just by using listenable builders or variations on that. So
and you can go the other way around too.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got a stateless widget that rebuilds with a builder, whereas I like to say all widgets are stateless, because when you're using a stateless widget, the widget doesn't change. It's the state object that belongs to that widget that changes.
So my point is just the fact there's a lot of it can get confusing when you're first starting out, and so stick with it. And when you use it, you'll start understanding where these things are coming from and stuff like that. And
just to cut people before they go down this route, stateless or stateful widget has zero in performance impact on your tree.
I know.
So too many people are like, oh, I have to put all my state in app state over here and not put it in the widget state. No, if you got this perfect good reasons to have state, stateful widgets and ephemeral state, go look at that article, the Flutter Dev article. It talks about app state and ephemeral state. Understand the difference, because they're not the same. They're not the same.
If you want to cry, try to make a game with lots of animations and try to not use any stateful widgets. You will hurt your poor little brain. Just don't do it.
Well, I mean, okay, all right. So like at F3, Philip's talk, he's talking about different things that are going on, and he was talking about someone that built a Flutter app without any widgets, doing everything in painters. So there's all kinds of crazy things you can do. So be careful.
What's his
suggesting-
name? Robbie Felker? Was his name Robbie Felker?
I don't remember. I don't remember who it wasn't. Philip that did it. He's the one that just mentioned it. I don't remember who it was that did it. But yeah, but it was.
That sounds like
yeah.
a Robert trick.
But yeah, so yeah, exactly. Train of thought. Exactly. Challenge accepted.
Which challenge though? The animations or the no widgets?
Well, the no widgets has been done. So yeah, yeah, exactly. Challenge accepted.
Just depending on where you are in the world, either a lot of paracetamol or Tylenol.
If anybody doesn't know, that was a How I Met Your Mother reference.
Oh, Jesus.
So, yeah.
So, for those that don't know, there's actually examples of what we've just been talking about. There's a very well-known example on the Flutter repo called layers. So we can go find it. And I'm just going to pop this up briefly. I think they kind of made this a bit messy. I think some automate tool came in here and added Android folders because there's not supposed to be an Android and iOS folders in here, but we'll ignore that. These are what you care about: raw rendering widgets. So these are like the layered architecture of Flutter, and that's not very helpful. Let's turn that link off. Basically, the if you pick, let's say pick widgets here. This takes you into the subdirectory. We choose an example. I'll just choose Hello World. So there's a Hello World app, in Flutter, right? Run app, center, text, done, right? Simple. On the layer below that, using just the rendering hierarchy. So we go to rendering. This is the rendering tree. Choose Hello World. This is how you do it in that. So I'm going to move us to one side. There we go. So as you can see, view rendering Flutter binding, render position box, render paragraph, text span. It does the same thing, right? So that when your widgets provide the configuration to build this tree. This is the render tree. This is what Flutter displays. When it processes a frame, it takes these render objects and draws a frame. Look here, schedule frame. That's exactly what it's doing on the binding, right? And then
that goes back to the layer cake.
Yeah, and then these, if I go into the raw one, choose raw, and then we're going to choose Hello World. Those widgets do this. So the app starts up, the beginning widget sets the schedule frame and the handling of frames. And then what you see over here, begin frame, gets the device size, gets a paragraph builder. This is all the drawing operations that take place. You got picture recorder, canvas, draw paragraph, scene builder, push a click rect, add the picture, pop, and then tell it to build the scene and render it.
Interesting question about this.
That
Going
is
back
exactly
to the
what
layer cake.
So this is the output of those render objects, right?
No, right. And leave that right there because that's my question.
Go on.
About 5 years ago, Norbert and I were both writing articles and talking about the 3-layer cake: the widget layer, the element layer, and the render layer. The widget layer is basically a blueprint. The element layer tells you if something changed, and the render layer puts it on the screen. Here's my question. If you're going straight to the render layer and using classes like this, how do you know anything's changed because now you've lost the element layer?
Well, no, but that's up to you to provide that logic, right? So you could just if you wanted to, you could literally use Riverpod directly with this, right? And have it so that when this gets called, it just rebuilds and chooses to rebuild and redraw, and that's it, and it just remakes a new picture and then tells it to schedule a frame. I mean, there's lots of ways of doing it, but the point here is the whole point of not doing this and using the widget framework is that's what it's there for, to help you not do all this complex stuff. It gives you this really simple abstraction layer. So this is the layers. The idea also, it optimizes a bunch of stuff, right? So we talked about the 3 layers. You have your widget layer, which is just the configuration. Elements are really the true widgets under the hood, right? Every widget has to have an element, right? There's a one-to-one relationship. But an element does not have to have a render object. And basically, element provides the glue between the two. So if an element is supplies a render object, then it gets its configuration of what color to use or whatever from the widget itself. And then it sends that to essentially passes that over to the render object. And then the render object then uses those parameters to actually do the drawing and do these drawing operations, right? So render objects are stateful, widgets are not, right? In terms of like an object, the render objects remain even when like different widget configurations are supplied. So for example, you do a build and you have a color box with a color. Next build, you supply a different color. You've got a completely new instance of a widget, but that widget is hooked up to an element, and then it provides that color to the existing render object that is for that place in the tree and maintains it. So you don't have to rebuild. You don't lose all this kind of like layout caching and a bunch of other things. So, you know, it's all optimized.
From a beginner standpoint, this means that you never do mutation. The framework does that evil stuff for you.
Yep. Yep. All right. I guess we'll go to the next question.
Yeah, we've been babbling for a little while now, huh? How can I connect to an SQL server in Flutter Desktop? I found a package, but it was only for mobile.
You found a well, first of all, which SQL? There's a
It's
lot of
probably
different SQL.
Microsoft SQL, probably Microsoft specifically SQL Server is what they call their product.
I'm not convinced that. I think he might be talking about SQLite, because then that would explain whilst it's talking about only mobile only, right? Because I'm like looking at going, well, the MySQL package and the Postgres package are both complete Dart implementations of both protocols, and you can call them from any Dart library. Doesn't even have to have bflutter. So yeah, that's not what your problem is, Test. So maybe if you can restate your question and explain a bit more about which SQL, what you're trying to achieve. But equally, just to be savvy about this, be careful what you wish for, because you should not be communicating directly to an SQL server across the internet from a desktop app. Don't do that. Have an API. Please have an API. Right, you will completely regret it if you go and connect directly to an SQL server from a desktop app. Trust me, don't do it. The whole idea of having so first of all, okay, let's say you want to change your SQL provider. Boom, that's it. The app breaks. Like it can no longer connect, right? Like the whole point of that's just one example where it fails. The other one is you change the database tables or some of the way you manage the data around. That's it. The app breaks again because you're hard linking it to that structure of data that you've got there. The whole idea of the API is to give an interface, a standard. So you agree to send this back to the app, and the app knows that. And the app can send what version it is, right? So the server can respond back with the version that it requires. You've made that interface, that is a known relationship. Now, where it gets that data to populate the response to the API can be wherever you want, structured however you want. Goodness knows whatever else you want, right? So just avoid like going straight to your database. You honestly, you don't want to do that. Yeah, sorry, that was a bit of a rant, but
Yeah,
don't do it.
If you don't actually have a back end for making API calls to, and all you're doing is talking to a database, then you have that problem a little bit.
Here's the thing: if the database is local on the same device, and you're just using it as a data store, then that's a different thing entirely, right? Because you deploy a new version of the database server along with your app, then that doesn't make much of a difference. But equally, probably doing that is a bit overkill for most situations. Even most databases can I mean, like the reason why the database. Okay, the reason. Let me just take a step back here. Databases existed in the first place to store data and help you retrieve data, right? That's the basic, right? But the reason why they existed in the formats and the ways that they did was more about having to do really performance optimized requests, because the power and the memory of the data were limited, right? The CPU power and the memory of those devices was extremely limited. So you needed to have an optimal way of accessing data, aka a database, right? Then what's happened is now we have big data, right? We have this notion of like, all the people visiting this, all the comments, they're all going through a database in YouTube and all the rest of it. That requires that big database because, again, it's the same problem. They need the performance because they have so much data now, right? That's the issue, right? But when for mobile, for any application, pretty much, I can't think of an application that actually needs a fully featured SQL database server anymore, because you can do that stuff in memory. There's enough memory going around. You can do that stuff, really easily, just referring to objects, having objects linked together inside your app when it's running, and you can just load that from disk from a file. Like, it's just not as complicated as it once was, right? And pick and choose what you will, but there's solutions out there that are like ISAR. We talked about this before. Let me bring this up to so you know. This is what I'd recommend for you if you are doing a local database for your app. So this is ISAR. It's made in Dart for Dart, specifically for Dart. Made for Flutter. It's used, no configuration, no boilerplate, highly scalable, feature rich. I don't even need to go through it. This is just like everything that anyone ever wants in a database. Full ACID semantics in a reliable database. You can't fault it. And it's super easy to use. You just annotate your objects, and away you go. And
follow up, Si.
Yeah. Let's see. Anyway, check out ISAR is what I was going to say. Right. Anyway, in the C#, in the C# I create a desktop app and connect to an SQL Server Management Studio in the same.
It is Windows.
In the same device.
Windows SQL Server. That's what
in the same in the same device. Can I do the same thing in Flutter desktop?
So a Windows interface for.
I honestly don't know, but So there's an old package. I mean, I don't know how much let's bring this up. I literally just searched MS SQL.
4 years.
I know it's an old package. As I said, it's an old package. But you could probably resurrect this, right? Like the fact of the matter is that the protocol probably hasn't changed all that much, and whatever they have changed is all fixes. So looks like there is a C++ part to this that you need to compile. I don't know enough about this. If this is actually doing what I think it's doing, there you go. Look. So there's DLL files. So this is kind of curious, right? So basically what they're doing here is providing a bit of glue logic between the SQL. Sorry.
I just want to say that if you're going to try to resurrect anything that's pre-Dart 2, I would recommend mixing some lavender with your sage and your incense.
Yeah.
This isn't actually that, by the looks of it, there's not that much to this. There's a couple of, it's really quite straightforward, actually. Maybe we can do this as part of the show. That might be fun. I don't know.
If you got a Windows machine nearby, yeah.
I'm on a Windows machine.
What do you mean?
From Start.
Oh, right.
Windows
Some of you are
machines.
forced to use that. That's right.
Not
This
forced.
immediately brought to mind the first episode of IT Crowd, where Jen has to go into the basement and has to go blowing steam and the sparks and the elevator door that wouldn't open all the way. That immediately brought all that to mind, just because I've seen IT Crowd way too many times.
And I do VR and large language models, and I look at Macs, and it's like mouse power. They're not measured in horsepower; they're measured in mouse power. They cannot
Come
do what I need to do.
We're moving off this topic. Come on.
Anyway,
Right.
That's right.
As
I'll arm
you
wrestle
can tell,
you.
I'm a
Get
big
over
Mac
here.
fan.
Get over here. Yep. Anyway.
All right. What is the best way to read and write data to get storage asynchronously? With an async and await is probably your best way. Or is there a better way? Because I sometimes have issues with reading data even if I had used await. So basically what you're saying is you've got a race condition somewhere.
No, I know it is.
No, he's talking about the get package, the package that shall not be named.
Is it?
Yes, because there's something called get storage in that package.
Oh God.
Oh,
Yeah, no, that's
storage
not even
async,
Flutter.
I think.
That's deep. If it's getX, it is deviated so far from the Flutter framework. You
if
can't
you're
even
just
really consider it Flutter anymore.
So just Rutvik, if you're just trying to read data, right? Like, let's say you've got however it links to their package, or if that's what you're talking about, I'm not even involved with that. But if you're trying to read data from a file, you might just do like file, the file name, and then dot read as string, read a string. It's an asynchronous function, returns a string. That's gonna like load the entire file, right? All in one big chunk, right? Now, if that takes so much time to load that more than one frame, you're gonna get frame skip, right? You're gonna get jank because you've taken more than 16 milliseconds off the main thread, so it can't do the rendering, right? So for the most time, that's not a non-issue, right? But that's where isolate.run comes in. Isolate.run is the method that lets you essentially it spawns a new thread, a new isolate, runs the task of reading the file on that isolate in the run method. That's what you do. You pass a method to it. And then the return response from that will be the contents. Equally, once you've still got memory copies and other things, like it's not ideal. It's really, you have to think about how you want to read your data. And normally you'd read it in chunks. So you'd normally read it in like smaller 4 kilobyte, 64 kilobyte chunks, process it in chunked form, and you just do a loop. And that way you're doing it in smaller units that are done in like each loop iteration is done at 1 millisecond or whatever. And that's like a lot less time per frame that you're using. And you don't even have to think about it. You just do it in chunks, and that's what you're going to get. If you do async, lots of async and awaits is good, essentially, so that you don't block for any long period of time.
Yeah,
I pasted the link in the private chat that you might want to get.
Because to be clear on that, when you do it, I'm sorry. Can you, Randall? Sorry.
I just said I pasted the link in the private chat that I think is referencing the package.
Yeah, I don't want to go. I don't want to go look at that. No.
Okay. Your browser doesn't go there.
I mean, it's Philip and I.
Since it's a virus, I can't browse it. Sorry.
Yeah.
Philip and I and a few other people have basically Twittered on this, and without trying to sound like a hater, the simple fact is that GetX has taken their own way so far off course. It's really no longer Flutter. It's trying to do everything for you. And the straight truth is I've never seen anyone, no one's ever approached me saying that they need a job done that would require GetX.
We're moving on. That's it.
I want to see something more like with what Simon was talking about real quick, which really is just the fact that, to be clear, when you do an await, if it's not done yet, you're yielding. And so that's what keeps you going with being able to not have that jank and block up. So that's why that's important, is because when you do the await is actually when you give up. If you've got, if you just had an infinite for loop or something, it's never going to come back. So that's why you need to tell it, I'm at a point where I'm going to wait for this, and you go off and do your own thing.
Also, don't use the synchronous functions, right? If you're doing something that's going to be way too big, don't use the sync functions. That's
yeah.
Okay.
Right.
How to become a Flutter or Dart GDE? There is no test. We've gone over this in GDG 1,000 times. There is no test. There is no qualification. Judy Camacho did a great talk on this called GDG to GDE that was done at GDG Global meeting in 2019 during I/O. And basically GDE is a way the Google says, hey, you're doing great community work. You're out there speaking, you're putting out good information, you're helping people, and we think you're a good ambassador for this technology. So they ask you to be a GDE. There's no test that you take. Okay, there's no course. They did for a little while with people who were already GDG organizers, give them a little bit of help, because these were people who were already out there speaking and doing it. So they gave them a little bit of guidance in order to try to help them bridge that last step. But if you want to be a GDE, write articles, answer questions on Stack Overflow, go out and speak to groups. They really need people who can speak.
Yep.
Okay. And when I say speak to groups, I mean you can go out to a meetup group with 4 people in the audience. It counts. You're
If
out
it's
there doing
recorded, it
community outreach. What's
If
that?
it's recorded, it does. It only counts if it's recorded.
That's on your reports though. As far as building a reputation for doing good work in the community, it doesn't necessarily have to be recorded, but once you're a GDE, you do have to submit reports about your activity. And that's, I believe, what Danielle's referring to.
Yeah. So let me point out two of those points that you just made there. So yes, it's a recognition that I was already doing stuff for the community when I first was approached about being a GDE, and I didn't push it; it came to me. So and I did have to go through a series of interviews with existing GDEs and with people on core staff and stuff. So I did get filtered by that, but now it's publish or perish, in the sense that I am constantly looking for opportunities to speak. I enjoy speaking, so that's not really a burden on me, except for taking up some of my time. But I enjoy answering questions. That's why I'm on this show. That's why I'm on Stack Overflow. That's why I'm on Reddit. And I do all that regardless of whether I would get paid for it or not. I just enjoy lighting up somebody else's eyes for a little bit of time. Like, oh, you can do that? Yeah, you can do that. That's exciting for me. That's the kind of thing that I look forward to every day of my career. And as a result, I am in the GDE program. I'm one of the 10 Flutter and Dart Google developer experts for North America. No, 12 for North America. So it's a very small elite group. We have monthly meetings where we usually end up with one of the leaders, probably working at Google or nearby, and that's good exposure. We're under NDAs, so they can actually give us hints about where things are going, so we can know what to research for our upcoming papers and presentations. So that's a good advantage. In fact, that's really about the only benefit you get besides having the credential, is that you do have some insider access that helps occasionally in trying to help decide what you want to be talking about next and what you want to learn next.
And if you go to talk somewhere, I think there's cases where they'll sponsor, all or part of that if you're going to speak somewhere.
Yeah, they provide some travel budget. Yeah, there's some travel budget, but not a lot.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is they will do a travel budget within your region. Yeah. See, and not being a GDE myself, my focus is more on things outside the region, because it's kind of cool. I can get assistance to travel internationally, and one big advantage of not being a GDE, it's less paperwork. I don't have to file reports. I don't have to file expense reports with Google.
Now, the two things I would say is, my understanding also is if you try too hard to say I want to be a GDE and I'm doing this so I can be a GDE, I think that's actually somewhat disqualifying. You need to be doing it because you want to do it, and the GDE is the recognition and maybe helping you continue to do it. But it's not, if that's your purpose, that's a turnoff. The second thing I want to say is it's going to be a lot harder for, like, say, Scott or myself, if we were to ever become a GDE here, than it would be somebody in a region that doesn't have any yet. If you're in a country that doesn't have a GDE yet, it's a lot easier in that area to become a GDE than it would be for here, where we've already got a dozen.
And as Danielle was just saying, as far as trying, I ended up in a weird situation where I'm friends with most of the GDEs, right? And I'm friends with a number of people on the Flutter team. Well, for a little while there got to be this, hey, when are you getting GDE? Why don't you have GDE yet? When do you get it? Blah, blah, blah. Over and over. And even the people who ran the GDE program were trying to get me on. And we looked up one day and realized that this is messed up, because I'm trying to do it because of expectations instead of doing it the proper way, where we just throw all the expectations out the window and I just go have fun talking to people. And you know what? If they want me to be in the program, just come.
Thank you, Robert.
Robert. You know what? I've been trying to talk Lauren into it. In fact, it's really funny because I just messaged Alec and Lucas this morning for me, about when do we start planning the next Flutter and Friends. And I want to run the social activity where after we close the bar, we all jump on boat scooters and go around the city at night. but you can't get too drunk ahead of time.
Right. What's next? Go on. Yes,
Actually, what's next? I might have to go. Unfortunately, I've got a pile of house stuff I have to take care of.
I've still got 12 minutes, so
My to-do list.
Oh, there we go.
Yep. All right. I will catch you all again next week. I'm going to be around a lot more. And okay. Don't click end stream. Click leave studio.
That would make us all go. We would all be.
There'll be very unhappy people.
All right.
Yes.
Hasta la pasta. I will see you all later.
Okay. Bye, Scott.
Right.
So I now have this job, I guess. So is using future delayed in a init state a problem? The initial part of this problem is a init state can't be asynchronous, and you're
Yeah, you
probably
can
trying
use
to get around that.
And then, as I say, you can do future.delayed in it. That's not a problem.
Yeah.
Except you can't await it. You can't make init state async. Don't do that.
Right.
None of the methods that might, if they don't return a future, don't make them return a future. It's that simple.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you're going to have problems. I think the key here is that in your future.delayed, there's a second parameter, which is your function that you can run once the delay is finished. That has to check if mounted. It has to check to make sure the widget's still mounted before like returning something like doing set state or doing something to the UI, because that's going to cause you a bad day otherwise.
Well, and depending on what it does, if it actually if it doesn't ultimately delay, and you're expecting it to have actually delayed, stuff like that, like if your time was 0, and so it doesn't actually go away, and you try to do a set state or something, that would blow up too, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So I mean, and then the trick, a lot of times, if you want to do something you can't do in a init state, then you can always add a post frame callback, and that can do just about anything you need it to.
Or schedule micro task.
Yes, schedule microtask. Sorry, yes.
And both work. The schedule microtask is one that just says, okay, after the current sort of round of processing is finished, versus post frame is like on the next frame, which may take some time. So just be careful of that.
Okay, go on here. What's the best free course to learn Flutter and the advanced topics? I already put into the chat, just so we can start with that. Be sure you look at all the code labs on both flutter.dev and dart.dev. There are some very excellent code labs there that I think people overlook. Also, they constantly are being added to. So if you looked at those 2 years ago, you're missing out some very significant changes that have been made to those code labs. So check them out today, especially if you're curious about Dart 3's patterns and records, which is a brand new, really game-changing feature. There's a great code lab on patterns and records in the Dart website. So start with the Google written material. There's some really good stuff there.
Well, and even like some of the longer format shows that the Flutter team does as part of their DevRel on YouTube are good for going through like specific topics. Like Kate just did one on the 2D scrolling that she's been working on, and so that's that's a good way to go do it. It's like a 12-minute I think video. So you get a lot more out of that. That's the build show, and then what's the other thing Craig's been doing? Flutter. Craig's been doing another longer show that kind of replaced
I forgot the name. Yeah, I've forgotten it as well. Yeah. The live show. Yeah.
I agree with that too. That actually doing stuff is always good. So if you're doing a code lab, and you see, or let's go even simpler. Let's just say you're working with a counter program that starts out. You can run it, you can play with it, you can say, okay, I see what it's doing, stuff like that. But where you really start learning is where you start saying, well, how would I make this double it every time instead of +1? How would I make it like, do something else or whatever? Start playing with it. Ask yourself questions. Just try to come up with something silly that like, well, how would I make it do this? How do I change the color? How do I move the position of the floating action button? How would I do it with a regular button instead of a floating action button? I mean, you ask yourself questions like that and start playing with it. And that's a really stupid example, but when you get into code labs, there's a lot of times where it can do that. I a lot of times if I'm, the Dart pad examples for different widgets, I will take that and I'll try stuff with them and say, well, can I make this work with it, or things like that. And that's the kind of curiosity to do with stuff like that. And I mean,
there's a lot of content already out there on the webs, the interwebs, both in terms of blog posts and in videos, typically on hosted by YouTube things. Like I have my own channel that I
I
put
was gonna bring that
content
up.
out. Yeah, but also be sure when you search for things, you can tell Google to only look for the last year of information. Make sure that you narrow the bounds of your search to just be stuff that's in the last year, unless you have immediate consultation with an expert like me. Come out on this to Discord and something and ask, is this still applicable? Because things have changed. And if you learn the old way, you might be doing it the hard way, or you might be doing it the impossible now way, because there have been breaking changes over the years. And we've seen some amazing content come and go because it's now outdated. In particular, it's like the early years of Firebase, you had to get the user by calling an asynchronous call. And so somebody was complaining the other day, like, why do I have to do an asynchronous call for that? And I go, you don't anymore. You haven't needed that for 3 years. So people are stumbling across this really, really old information. So just at least narrow it down so you're only looking for stuff that's in the last year. But ask keywords and put the word Flutter with it, like Flutter, a to-do list or something. You'll see plenty of examples of how to do that, working with Firebase, working with Supabase, things like that. There are plenty of examples out there to learn from that are free, absolutely free, but make sure, again, that it's recent enough that it's current.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And the more fiddly it is, the more specific. Well, how do I make this happen when, whatever, A, B, and C are going on or whatever? The more that is, the more important that Randall's advice right there is, because that's the kind of stuff that definitely changes.
Yeah. I mean, some of my stuff is outdated, but I went and had comments that said, no, this stuff is now superseded by something I did 2 years later. So I occasionally do that. So
I was going to say, also check out the roadmap that I put on the screen earlier. That's a really good resource to sort of get going. I think there's also Andrea Bisotto. Is it Code with Andrea?
Bullet says, I missed the Code with Andrea videos.
Why do you miss it?
So
He's still there.
I'm just telling you, that's that's one of the comments that's out there right now.
I know. I don't understand the comment. I think it's because Andrea doesn't publish free videos anymore. It's all paid videos and free blog articles.
So I think, the point here though is, this is his source of income, right? So
yeah.
But like you were talking about, like courses, these are full courses, right? These are intermediate to advanced, a whole sort of course that you can do, what you'll learn, all the recommendations, what's inside.
And it's great material, high quality stuff, and he keeps it up to date. Yeah. He's been patching his old materials as things change. So this is already up to date. Good stuff.
And the one last thing I would add is when you talk about advanced topics, those are not necessarily Flutter specific. So if you're trying to figure out how would I calculate some sort of mathematical thing that I need to use in an animation in Flutter, the how to do it, you might find that something easier on that by looking more general than Flutter and then plug it in. So what the advanced topic is.
That is something we Rand have actually spoken at before, that like learning, like one of the things you need to do as a developer is learn how to Google. It's about understanding the problem space and knowing like how you come at the problem, because it's like you talk about Flutter specifics. Well, that's going to arrange around the Flutter API and the Flutter things, right? But then you go, oh, well, I want to do the SQL Server thing that we're just sort of coming up. That's to do with MySQL Server, to do with Microsoft. Like there's a bunch of different avenues to sort of like accessing that information that is not related to Flutter, right? How does one, you could look to pick any language, how does one use Python to connect to SQL Server? Understand that relationship. Okay, how can I do that in Dart?
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of ways of like learning about things and coming at a problem. So.
Oh, and this here, I like Van Dad stuff. Come on.
Right.
Vandad also has great stuff. Exactly. There, in fact,
Yeah.
there's like a 17-hour introduction to Flutter course for free. That's pretty good stuff. And then an add-on that adds Riverpod on it. Yeah, he does some amazing material. I believe he's a GE in the other side of the world, somewhere over there.
All right.
Right.
Next question.
Yes.
This is probably about the earlier save layer. It doesn't how to use it to improve and point. It doesn't improve performance. In fact, it makes it worse. When we use the scratch thing, right, what it actually has to do is save everything you're doing until the restore takes place, and then it then takes the result of that and puts in the pipeline. So you're actually adding a caching layer. Essentially, a save layer is like adding a cache to the drawing action. So it's the result of all the drawing actions that is combined together that is then laid into the display list. So that's the way you do that, kind of like do something and then subtract it away, because you needed to paint one, then subtract parts of that away, then take the remainder and put that into the display list that's being painted. All right, that's it.
Well, I'm about to turn into a pumpkin. My hour and a half's up. So
well, thank you for joining us. And
thanks for giving us so much time at the beginning for the Flutterista conference, and thanks for your help this upcoming Saturday.
no worries.
Anytime.
We'll see you soon.
See you next week, maybe. Yes.
Yes.
Excellent. Excellent. And we have 7 questions still in the queue. Why don't we cut off questions now in case you want to do some live cutting, Simon?
Yeah. All right. That's
Okay. We'll do 5 more minutes of questions, and then I'll cut them off, and then get them in real quick, and then we'll cut it off for that, and then Simon will go off and do something live. Oh, look, we already have one. Good. All right. So let's do the next question, which is there. It's already up.
Shared app data widget. Shared app data. Is that one of the new? No, that's not that. I know there was some app data. What was that? Joey, just remind me. What was that new app? Was it App State? There was like this new top level.
Oh.
Do you know what I'm talking about? There was that new top level. What was that called? It was like app something, wasn't it?
You're right. There's something new. It'll be in the changes.
Oh wait, maybe.
Between
I'm
Flutter
looking at the wrong.
releases.
Hang on. Shared app data. No, it is shared app data. Yeah. Okay. So look, I never used it before.
Yep. Just take it for a spin. We'll do that for a live.
No,
you get code money back guarantee.
There you go. Enable shared key value data with its children or no child descendants. Huh. Basically,
it's inherited widget. It's another wrapper around inherited widget.
Yeah, it's just saying it's just letting you supply some data down the tree. Instead of doing it by type, you're doing it as map. So it's kind of like, set value. Oh, I'm not sure I like this. Set value.
Just use Riverpod. Use Riverpod.
Show shared value with the key. And then that is doing what? Get value. Okay, so you have set value, get value on a context. Never used it. Look, I mean, like, get value to create dependencies, set value. It's basically just a simple way to control a map as part of your widget tree, so you can load and store data. I mean,
and then you get into namespace problems then too. Like now, who owns the key called foo in your app? That's the problem.
Also, it's complete. The other thing I'd say about this is completely unstructured, right?
Yeah.
So you don't know, like, you're going to get something back out on the foo key, and it's not going to be a string, and then your whole app's going to break, right? Like it's just, don't. I mean, why not just supply to the actual data?
Just have a global map. Or better, use Riverpod. There we go.
I've just never used it, and I don't think I ever would. I don't see a reason why I would actually want to use this. I'm going to eat my. I'll let you know if it ever changes on the stream here, but like, I can't think of a place where I would actually want to use this. I mean, at least it's typed, I guess. But I mean, it doesn't enforce the typing, right? Because you could set type and then try and get the type, and it would be a wrong type. it would just, I don't know. I don't know. It looks interesting. Use an inherited model with aspects, so you get like a nice optimal rebuild for only when that key changes. All right. I guess move on.
Yep. Is it possible to see Dart in the future used in data science? Who says it's not being used in data science at the present? It probably is.
Yeah.
Dart's a general purpose programming language. So it's probably being used already. Do you mean, will it ever have the prevalence that, say, Python has in Dart and data science? Probably not. Nothing's going to beat Python right now. Python's just going to take, keep doing that forever. But
I mean, it's somewhere in the future. I mean, like never say never, right? Like again, it's
right.
all about the direction of the community, right? If the reason why Python is doing what it's doing I don't think it was ever a Python decision. They didn't go, oh, we want to do data science. No,
Right.
It's Python was an easy language for people to learn and pick up, and compared to the ones at the time, and then you go, okay, well, then we're just going to build all this stuff with it. And then what happens? This is what happens. People build it, go, oh, it's really unperforming. I wish I had this feature and that feature from the language. They listen, they add it to the language, and then you kind of get synergy happening between the frameworks and the libraries and the language itself, which we have with Flutter and Dart, right? And and then there you go. And then what you get is a really good language for data science. But there's lots of like libraries already made that are great for like, mapping and changing data, like RX Dart, for example. Pardon me. Anyway, but yeah, I'd say it's all about the community getting behind libraries and packages that give you the features that you need to do the jobs that you need to do with the language. That's simple.
Yeah, easy enough. Simon's not going to like the next question, or maybe he will.
Oh, I saw it when it came into the chat.
What is on there? I can't see it from here. It's back over there. Yeah, it's little boxes.
Yeah, it's boxes.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yep.
No, this was just describing some interactions between an API at one point to someone, and up it went on the board. So it's like, there's like an API gateway coming in, database, whatever else.
Your
Usual
typical chart. Do you have a cloud? You got to have a cloud in there somewhere, right?
I think it is. I think it's there.
Off the edge, just off the edge of the screen. That's required. Every application diagram has to have a cloud drawn in it somewhere. It's always a cumulus cloud. It's never like a thunderstorm cloud, a thunderhead. That would be great.
Yeah.
This is the internet that you really have.
This is where the bad comments come from.
Yeah, right. This is where the DDoS comes from, a thundercloud. I'm going to have to add that to some diagram I make someday. So I'm using a form widget. How do I validate each text form field when it's unchanged? Other than text form field should not validate until I call form key current state validate. I'm not sure how those fit together. Well, you can tell it to validate automatically when the field is changed. There's a setting on a
I'm using
form item, right?
Sorry, I missed the question. I was reading something. Oh, it already has it. It already has a field for that. There's an auto validate field on every form field.
Yeah, just set it correctly, and it defaults to something like unchanged, as I recall.
No, I don't think it sets at all. I think it's. Hang on, let's look it up. Text form field. You can also, by the way, people don't realize you can just create your own form fields. A text form field is just a form field, extended form field widget for a string. You guys can see that there, right? So you can just like extend this yourself, and then the state object is a form field state that you can extend, and then you can make form fields with the same protocol. But don't stick with this one if you don't need to. Right? What was the same?
Auto validate mode. Auto validate mode. It's the first property. It's in the list of properties on the right hand side of your screen.
Oh yeah. But I was looking for the.
The default. Yeah.
Yeah, it's default to null. So, I'm pretty sure it's documented in the constructor though. Maybe I was looking at the wrong place.
I think it defaults then. Okay. I think it defaults to the form wide setting if it's null.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so that's the override for the individual field.
And there you go. Look, on user interaction. Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, the form. There's actually one inside the. So on the actual form, which itself, if you want it on every field, there's auto validate mode on the form as well. There you go. Other text field should not validate until I call. Yes, just override it on the form field. That answers the question.
Yep. Cool. Isolate takes more memory than normal. What's normal mean? How do I call independent async functions? Well, async is async as long as you're not burning up all of one CPU to the point where you're dropping frames. That doesn't matter then.
Yeah, I mean, the whole you say takes up more memory than normal. I mean, there's no more memory than normal. That doesn't make any sense. Of course, it takes up more memory because you're doing more things, right? Also, it actually does what's called cow, which is copy on write. So the memory that it actually copies for Dart isn't actually used. It's actually used in RAM once. For all the Dart isolates, they use the same RAM once, and then it's just the stacks and the heaps that are different. So it doesn't actually. It takes up quite a lot less memory than normal, in fact. So yeah. It may look like that from numbers, right? Like so sometimes the operating system or various things report is using a lot more memory than it actually is because it doesn't account for it counts for the memory addresses being used, not how the memory is being used. So you want to be careful about that. But yeah, I just use isolates. If you want to do something completely independent and whatever, use isolates. But honestly, don't do them unless you need them. I literally have not had to use isolates for I don't know how long. Right? So hope that helps.
And if you are using isolates, be sure to look up isolate.run. It's the easiest way to just say, do this thing over there. And then it's a really, really simple interface compared to all the classic isolate spawn and all that stuff you had to do in send port and receive port. And none of that. It's just isolate.run and it run this thing on a different thread.
From Dart 219, isolate.run. And then you can see here, look, so you just do this. Await isolate.run, and then the function that's here, that's given, is run in the new isolate. That's how it works. Yep. So this slow Fibonacci calculation that's recursive would be done in a new isolate, and then the result is returned. Here's another example. Do it with stream. Eventual error. So there's another one. Run this future. This runs the method. It will delay for 1 second, and then throw in an error. And that error will be thrown by the run method, so you can catch it. So it basically treats an isolate as an asynchronous function. It's super handy. It deals with all the complex type stuff for you. There's certain things you cannot pass across a boundary. I warn you now, you'll get errors, but for the most part, most things can go across the actual boundary. But here, serialize and write to a file this object. Open up the file, and then you have it builds an internal function inside the function right now. Position await right now. In such cases, create an error. Oh yeah, there you go. There's the isolate.run. So when it actually does the write, when it does the encode, it does JSON encode and runs the JSON encode in isolate and then writes the result back. I mean, you could put all of it onto the isolate, to be fair. But yeah, this is the complex, the horribleness of you'd have to do it if you. And these are actual implementations. There's a lot more underneath this. Anyway, so this is really
under the hood. Yeah, isolate to run is amazing. Under the hood, though, anything you're sending to the isolate has to be cloned, but it's done using magic internal send port, receive port stuff that you don't have to play with. Anything being sent back, though, is just handed over from one thread to the other. So it doesn't even have to be cloned as it's coming back, which is really, really efficient because it's always exiting the isolate on its way out, because as exiting the isolate, they can transfer the memory that's being used by that complex data structure on that side straight over into the main isolate.
If also to mention that on older versions of Dart, isolates were quite slow. That got changed quite effectively. In isolate.run, it does some lightweight things. One of the keys to that is that when your function finishes, it runs isolate.exit, which is a way of, as Randall was saying, signaling to that the isolate is finished, and it won't continue anymore. And that way, the isolate can actually be reused. So that's another thing that the way the system works. So if you are not using isolate.run and using isolate.spawn, ensure you do isolate.exit inside of at the very end of your computation to effectively reuse isolates. All right, moving on.
Oh.
I'm using Navigator 2.0 and extending router delegate. I'm also using Boolean to add or not pages to a list of pages to pass into my Navigator. Is there a better way to use a router delegate? I mean, that's literally how it works. I mean, the idea here is that you've got the two. I did a talk on this actually. Go look at my Simon. Just Google Simon Lightfoot Navigator 2.0 or something. I'm sure you'll find me. I did a talk on this. There's the Pages API, which is basically just Navigator passing a list of pages, and then it will automatically reorder them, animate them, work them based on the declarative set of pages that you're asking for. Pages are the configuration of routes, which is really handy because, before that it was imperative. Now we can do declarative stuff. Now you can just use the Pages API without any of the router delegate stuff, right? So you can just literally have, if you wanted to, use Riverpod, have it manage, have a provider that manages a stack of pages. You call a function called push, it adds to the stack and tells the UI to rebuild, and then it provides that, a list of pages to the navigator. That's it. You've just done Navigation 2.0 without the router. So there's the two APIs. You've got the Pages API and the Router API as part of Navigate 2.0. If you want to integrate that, there's ways of integrating that, Navigator without Router in Material.app. I'll give you a quick fix for that, and that is provide a key to Material app and then override the build method and return your own Navigator with your own set of pages. Don't use child as passed in child. And that way you just take over the navigation. All navigator.push will use your key. It'll go to your navigator. It will completely work, and you can do whatever you want. You don't have to use the router builder. Hopefully that helps.
Hope so. If not,
I mean, there's lots of ways. I mean, there's lots of ways of implementing the router system. You're saying you're extending and using a Boolean to add pages or not. I mean, it's really about how you want to manage that state, right? Like you're talking about a Boolean that probably to decide if a set of pages should or should not be in your list of pages for your navigator. It's however you want to manage your navigation state within your app. The whole idea of using one of the packages like Go Router, Route Master, I'm going to think of the other ones. There's several. Auto route. There's several packages out there that do it. The whole reason they're using those is they have a an opinionated way of implementing the router and pages API, and that's the idea, right? Like, to save you from doing what you're doing right now is you use the opinionated ones, and therefore you don't have to do the whole minutia of using the Navigate 2.0 API. Doesn't stop you from doing it if you want to go straight to the API, but you don't need to use the router API. All right.
The Navigator 2 API was created to make more things flexible, but it's always struck me as being a bit of over engineering. I think they just went hog wild and threw every possible bell and whistle in it could. And that's why we have Go Router and all these other things. Yes, Simon, you have a differing opinion.
Yeah. No. Yes and no. So it was a cry out from everyone because we wanted to look at the stack of pages and go, okay, have I already been to this page? Is it in my history stack? Then I want to navigate to that place in my history. You don't have that control over the navigation stack with Navigator 1.0. They went, okay, you control your navigation set of pages. You can do whatever you want with those and just tell the navigator what pages you want to display. It will do the magic. That was the Pages API part of Navigator 2.0 is the bit that everyone wanted. The router bit was just, okay, let's give an opinionated way of how we can build those routes on top and manage that set of pages to match the original Navigator 1 API, which, by the way, still works with Navigator 2. It just does it on top of the pages. So that way you can have, because if you don't even know this, but for most people that don't know this, let's say you tap on a menu item with a drop down list. That drop down list pops up as a route, right? So that actually, that pop up list that normally appears is actually a route, and that'll be on your Navigator 1 stack basically. So it all links together. Anyway, off topic.
Cool. I think we've covered that. Next.
Yeah.
Many people posting blogs about the future of Flutter. What do you say about that? I think it has a future.
I have no idea what those blogs say, so I can't comment on what those blogs say, but it has a future. I think it's very positive, and it just keeps growing and growing. I mean, the stats prove for itself. I mean, like, you don't really have to go far to do it. I mean, there's going to be a ton of like, what's the word? Sensationalist articles as well, right? So you're probably going to find some that are either way too positive or even way too negative because they're coming from other platforms that they prefer, right? So whatever you read, take with a pinch of salt.
I think this is referring to the fact that typically about once a week in the Reddit for Flutter, somebody posts, I'm having trouble finding jobs in Flutter. There's way more in React Native and anything else that they want to quote in terms of just how does Flutter compare to those? And is Flutter dying because of that? And I think it's that people are not perhaps aware that a lot of the Flutter hiring is companies internally moving their iOS and Android teams over to Flutter. So they don't need to hire externally. So it doesn't show up as much as an external job source for now. But it doesn't mean Flutter's not busy. Lots and lots of apps are getting created more and more every day. It's exponential in terms of growth, in terms of iOS and Android, but also now that we've got multiple platforms and we've got car manufacturers like GM and GM and Toyota. I forget who the other one is.
There's
they're incorporating them. Yeah, they're incorporating them into dash display, in-dash entertainment system displays. It just keeps growing. It's just being used everywhere, and I'm fully invested in Flutter, but it's the best of breed of everything in this area right now, and there's some legacy projects that aren't ever going to roll over. But I know of many projects that say we've abandoned our iOS and Android and done it all with Flutter now, and now we have half the size of the team from what we had before because we can do one code base on all platforms. It's good stuff.
I mean, the notion of the whole sort of job market. I mean, I think that the problem here is but this is the same with any job market, right? And I think this is no one wants. It's very hard to find a job as a junior.
Yeah.
Right. Like, especially if, I mean, you can go find a job as a junior if you don't want to be paid that much, right? And that's always,
if you want to work for free, intern. Right. There's plenty of interns.
But the thing is, this is the same in all the programming languages, right? Like in all the like, and I think the key here is to get experience with the other sides of what Flutter is used with. Like, let's say desktop. Go start doing desktop. Say you've got experience with desktop. Make your own little product with desktop. Go do the same thing for iOS. Go do Android. Make a plugin with iOS. Make a plugin with Android. Have that knowledge base to fall back on, and to start learning about those all these things, right? Because it's cross-platform. People want someone that can do cross-platform, right? Which is not just Flutter, right? But yeah, there's tons of Flutter work out there. And I think it's people trying to find the right fit for the right job, and it just takes time.
Yeah, it's tough.
Right.
You got to sell yourself. It takes time. Okay, next. Is that true?
Yes. Improves painting performance. It improves painting performance because basically it acts as a cache for the drawing operations, right? So it doesn't have to read. So each time a repaint occurs, it doesn't have to redraw that entire subtree because it's cached to painting operations, right? So normally when you do a paint, the entire render tree is traversed, all the paint functions are called with all the different canvases and whatever else, and it conglomerates a big set of instructions that are the drawing instructions that are needed for the GPU to draw that frame of graphics. Now, if you put repaint boundary on a subtree, what you're saying is when it goes down to do that, if it's already, it'll do that subtree, cache it in the repaint boundary. The next frame comes along, it will use the cached version if that subtree has not been invalidated for paint. But
And you're about to do this. You're about to say what I was just going to say.
I was going to say, but they use up more memory. That's the thing, right? So, what were you going to say?
And there has to be a value. You have to have the same thing accessed twice, or else you've spent extra time working out the cache.
Yeah. There is actually
performance is not guaranteed. The performance might be better. So do it both ways.
In fact, it can be worse as well, like depending on what you're doing, right? There is actually on repaint boundary in the hang on, I can't remember what it is now. On repaint boundary in the debug response that the widget gives you, it actually says if it's being used effectively or not, which is quite clever. I'm going to find it now.
You get a score. You get like 100% score or something. That'd be cool.
For life of me, I can't find it right now. It's really annoying me. There's a whole. Is this being used effectively? I know there is. I can't.
Right.
Oh yeah. Martin's paint.
That's generally true when you're analyzing any kind of cache. You want to see what the cache hits versus cache misses are. Boy, try saying that 3 times fast. Cache hits. There we go. Carefully say that.
I'm going to see if I can just briefly find this. I won't spend much time on this because I honestly it's buggy. I knew it was. I knew it's there somewhere. Oh look, there you go. Look. If you run dump render tree, apparently includes the ratio of cases where it's useful versus where it's not. These are inspected programmatically.
I'm not looking at anything. There we go.
Yeah, it creates a separate displays for its children, can improve the performance of the subtree, repaints at different times the surrounding tree, blah, 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 blah. It's particularly useful, and there's symmetric and asymmetric render counts that you can get. So these are actually properties on the render object. So you can get the render object from the state. But yeah, so you can get the counts. I'm pretty sure there was like, is this being used effectively? I think you get I think there's actually like a print statement you get in the logs when you're running in debug mode now to tell you that it's not.
Doesn't it also show up in dev tools? I thought there's a dev tools.
I think it does. I thought it shows you in dev tools, but I was looking at the widgets debug method, and it doesn't put the flag that I thought it did. So I don't know. It's somewhere. I'm sure you can find it. But anyway, yeah. The other side of this is also for those that I'm just going to show you something because again, most people don't realize this one either, and that is when you build a list view. Find the constructor. Oh, really? Right. In the constructor. Come on. Really? Look at what's on by default. Add repaint boundaries. Every child of a list view gets a repaint boundary.
Woohoo!
And there you go. So you can turn that off if you want to, but leave it on, and you get like a really optimal paint when you're scrolling. Right? This is the thing. But there might be reasons when you want to turn it off, and that's what this is included for, right? But yeah, all this does is probably I can find it. I think this is just the flag. There you go. So when it builds the widget for the child, if the flag is set, it wraps in a repaint boundary widget. There you go. Done. Pause that. So there you go. Magic.
Oh, all right.
All right, there you go. What's next? As how to get Dash. Well, we just told you at the beginning, and that is to go back and watch the beginning because you'll get a link to a competition that's been taking place where one of the winning things is a dash. There you go.
And it took me 3 years after becoming a GDE to get that one. So they're rare. I don't know how. Well, Simon just has better friends. I think that's probably part of it.
Oh no. This was many Flutter events and much hard work. That's what this is.
Yes.
I also actually had. So I gave away. I actually had like 3 small dashes as well, and I gave them away to various speakers of Flutter London meetups and things. So where I could get a dash, I'd give away. But these ones, they don't make these anymore. These are the larger ones, and this is the OG original one. See the light patch? No, is it the dark one that's the new one? The dark one's the older one. See the like the dark patch here at the front, and this one's a light patch. What's your one?
Mine's light, but that's I think mine's early as well.
So okay. Well, the one of them is that's why there's 2 different types here. And the tail's a different color. You got like a light blue and a dark blue on this one.
Yeah, mine has a dark blue tail and a light patch, so it's even different from both of yours.
Oh, there you go.
Wow. They're all unique. They're all handcrafted. Everyone is individually generated, which is why we can't get them from the Google Store or whatever. Right. That's why.
Right. What's next?
Yes. Does Dart have something like Pandas data frame to work with tabulated data, or do column operations? Yeah. Okay. Next. No. Okay. Data grid, right?
Yeah. Well, you got data table.
Data table. Yeah.
There you go. Data table.
And there's a video on it. Watch the video.
Yeah. So this actually has you got like the select rows. So if you're building like some sort of databasey thing, there's a bunch of stuff. There's also the paginated one, which it's not going to show me now, but there's it paginates. But watch the video. Data table is probably what you're looking for. There's also new 2-dimensional viewport stuff. And then we're going to be seeing probably some more optimal, pardon me.
Some pub packages probably start showing up that relate to that.
2-dimensional scroll view for those that want to like pan around like some content. This is the new widget for that. They'll probably start seeing some more table-based approaches that use this new hierarchy underneath to optimize the display and recycling of large sets of data. But yeah.
Cool. Next. Are there any real-time example for we talked about shared app already? Yeah. Go see 10 minutes ago. How about creating a custom widget that supports form validation? Oh, I think we're done with the real questions. This was just ideas for live coding. You want to do a custom widget that supports form validation? That'd be an interesting live coding.
Could do.
Maybe. And then there was another one. The next question that's starred is another idea for live coding. Or drag-driven animations. Like the music screen will animate while the user drags the screen down.
I mean, yes. I try to understand like what you mean by that.
Yeah. Maybe
you can give an example. Like drag-driven. It's basically how to do like. I mean, that's it. I'll show you how to do this if you want to. In fact, what we could do is take the bottom sheet that we did last week and actually make it up. So we did the swipe left and right to resize. But what we didn't do is the drag to dismiss and drag to like expand. So, I mean, that's drag-driven animation. You certainly play around with that.
Oops, I just pasted the wrong thing here. How do you get to the 3-dot menu when the heart is in front of it? I don't know how to do that.
Pass.
I don't know. Okay, one more time here. I'm reposting the link to the channel or to the contest. Let's try it one more time.
For some reason, every time you copy a link, it always opens a new window, which always gets messed up. But
yeah, I select the right button menu for that.
All right.
I think if that link doesn't work, let me know again, and I'll try to get it one more time. But I think that was the contest link. If you want to win a damage, there you go. So that's where you go for that, and submit that quickly.
I'll take them out.
Alrighty.
Right. There we go.
We are out of questions, so now it's just up to what do you want to do for live coding there.
Actually, whilst the stream was going, I was trying to install SQL Server, like the developer edition or something, to share. I thought I'd give that a go, but it's not plain ball. What a surprise! So I'm not going to do that.
Okay, so not doing the SQL Server thing. Okay, that's fine.
Let me just rearrange things. So we've got the app bar thing, which I think is a common, quite a nice one that I think people would find interesting. That we had a rake to make some notes at app bar, passing one set of values from one screen to another. Maybe explain a bit more about how to do that with custom stuff. MS SQL, custom form validation, and then drag-driven animations. How about we do this? Should we have let's have
strong feelings. Yeah,
sorry?
just post now. Post now. Anyone have any strong feelings about any one of those four or anything else? See who's still around. Yeah, we've got some people still around. So,
I was going to say, should we take a quick 5-minute break and just come back to this?
What do? We put music on? I mean, do we both take the break or do we both just chat?
No. I meant just step away for 5 seconds. Or I can. Okay. You can stick around if you want to, or we can put a screen up. I don't mind.
I was just going to ask if I could do that too. So let's take a 2-minute blackout.
Let's take a 2-minute break, and if you have any interesting things that you want to know, I don't know, live code, stick it in the chat now. Otherwise, we're going to do something else.
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor.
Let me make a little, back after break. There you go. I'll be back. We'll be back in just a minute. See if I can get this going.
We're back.
Yeah, there we go. I'm back.
We're back. But we're on the wrong side. You need to be over there. How do you get over there?
What, like that?
There we go. Yeah, like that. Whoa.
I'll figure out the buttons.
I'm used to pointing that way to point at you, and it's like if I are on the wrong side, I can't do that.
How many?
Down and towards you and stuff. We had one suggestion that I starred, so you could go to it.
I just got a call from work saying that they've got a production issue I need to jump on. So
Oh well, then we're wrapping the show up anyway.
so I think I might if people are interested in doing a bit of live coding, I might come back and do a bit of live coding if people are interested. But I do have to dash for this, so either everyone stays on hold or we continue with this in a minute. I don't know.
I've got a meeting shortly as well anyway, so I'm going to be gone. So you might as well wrap it up.
Damn. What was the suggestion?
The from Chun in saying I have it starred.
Live code the project. I wish. I can't do that. Yeah.
Oh yeah. No. Yes. Go up to the starred one.
What I'm going to do, this may take half an hour or something to sort out. So, best thing I can say is,
Back next week.
I may jump on and do this as a live stream if people are interested. If watch out on Twitter or keep your notifications open. Other than that, I think we'll have to end it here, my friend. If a screen can be dismissed by dragging down, play pause. What was the suggestion?
The one I have starred.
When you have start. Yeah.
We have technology, for that stuff.
I do want to do a bit live coding.
No.
How to animate a grid view, built-in animation widgets, fade in, scale up. Yeah, we can do it. Yeah, that's nice. That's actually one that I wouldn't mind doing as well. So let's see if we can do some more of this. Best thing, subscribe to the channel, and hopefully get a notification within the hour. Otherwise, we'll see you next week. Sorry.
Yep.
Got a dash.
166 hours, 165 hours now. We'll be back.
Apologies, everyone, but
Yep.
work calls.
See you next
All
time.
right.
See you sooner next week.
See you all soon. Thanks for coming. Sorry for the quick dismissal here. Sorry. All right. Bye for now.